Disha here, and I welcome you all back to the next episode of EnTalks, a podcast series initiated by ecell IIT Bombay. Today, along with us here, we have three esteemed guests and renowned industry leaders from the BFSI sector. Ranga sir, Mr. Ranganathan Krishnan is a part of the CTO division in Deutsche Bank and is the product owner for the process automation platforms for the bank that include intelligent automation platforms using workflow, robotics, and OCR. These tools are used across the bank to deliver improved operational efficiencies and drive innovation. Thank you, sir, for joining in with us today. Mr. Rajesh Sanar, Director at Deutsche Bank and having 29 years of global experience in building products, platforms, services, and high-performing teams across various business domains, including banking, transportation, and health. He's a technologist with proven leadership capabilities and execution skills focused on delivering complex and mission-critical programs and projects. During his 22 years of association with the banking industry, he has built software and services for multiple business areas, including corporate banking, investment banking, wealth management, and retail banking. He currently heads transformation and innovation for investment banking technology at Deutsche Bank India. He holds a bachelor's in computer science with a postgrad in finance. It's a pleasure to have you along with us today. So, Abhishek, so Mr. Abhishek Sinha, he's the global head of engineering for post-trade client applications in the investment bank. Additionally, he heads the practice of collaboration tooling, robotic boards development across TDR. He graduated in electronics and telecommunication and has extensive experience in designing and implementing large investment banking applications. Abhishek sir also mentors startups in fintech ecosystem. He constantly evaluates new tech and is keenly researching on the blockchain, artificial intelligence space, and how it applies to the banking and finance sector. Thank you, sir, for taking our time and being with us here. It's a great pleasure to host you all. See, to introduce you all with the topic for today's discussion is AI ops and chat ops in the financial industry. We all know that the dynamic developments in the artificial intelligence is transforming the face of banking operations and enhancing banking services. AI ops. To give an audience what exactly AI ops is, a brief about it is artificial intelligence for IT operations. It combines big data and machine learning to automate IT operation processes. In the financial sector, the use of AI ops enables quick monitoring, security, and efficient management data. ChatOps is all about conversation-driven development. ChatOps is a streamlined use of chat applications and communication services to run development and operation functions and commands in line with human collaboration. Let us know much more about this evolving technology from the best of the industry professionals. I would request Abhishek sir to give an overview of AI ops and chat ops.
Thanks, Disha, for this. So, both these topics, if I talk about, right, AI ops and chat ops, both are very close topic to my heart. Coming to the basics, as you have mentioned, Disha, AI ops stand for the artificial intelligence for IT operations. And if we look at originally, it has been coined by Gartner. And in simple terms, if we look at right from the very, very high level, it looks like the way we are going to refer the data and information in an application environment are managed by teams. Especially in this case, because we are using AI, so instead of teams, AI is going to evaluate that particular data. And from AIOps platform, if we look at, it leverages the big data, collecting lots of data from various IT tools and application, networks, and all the layers. And depending upon that, it let you know, like if there is any real-time issue going to encounter into your whole ecosystem. It also provides historical analytics on the basis of which it can predict few things. And in a nutshell, it helps you to resolve the issue faster and helping organization to meet the customer expectation in current scenario. So this is, at a very, very high level view of the AI ops. And in a very, small terms, I would like to explain about ChatOps as well, because, if we look at uh, ChatOps trying to bring human, process, and technical system together and breaking the silos. And, all of them can co-work together to bring out what is best out of it so that they can take any particular action or any particular on top of any issue. If it is coming, they can take action over there. If we look at the financial industry, there are collaboration tools like Symphony, Slack, Microsoft Teams are being used. And through ChatOps, cross-functional team can talk to each other, investigate, run operation, and run infrastructure command directly through the chat. This creates a real-time system for managing production incident while automatically maintaining detailed documentation of the communication and the process which has happened during an incident. So as a organization, they don't have to worry about like what is the detailed RCA, where is the documentation, everything is throughout there in that particular chat platform. So this is a brief definition I would like to start with on the AI ops part.
Thank you, sir. Rightly said, data is money. In this decade, the data is what is driving a lot of factors in the industry and being incorporated real time with artificial intelligence and big data. Rajesh, sir, would love to know your thoughts on AI ops.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for that warm welcome. I think AI ops is going through a phase where people either love it or hate it, trust it or look at it with suspicion. And all of these emotions probably driven by personal opinions around the word artificial intelligence. We all seem to have an opinion around it. And as with all new things, innovators will embrace it and reap early benefits, while the early adopters and majority adopters will follow suit sooner than later. The laggards, I believe, will eventually join the wagon, but yeah, would have incurred a fair amount of loss of opportunity cost, if I may say so. I personally believe that AI ops will be a key enabler for a business that is looking to deliver quick, consistent, and quality services at scale to their end customers. Because throwing humans at a problem, I think that's not going to be sustainable anymore. So you can't just keep on scaling the number of humans who can deliver scaled up business. So AI ops will help us to do that scaling at quality and at a consistent level of service, as I mentioned. Of course, all this by minimizing the impact of outages, assisting quick recovery, and all this at an optimized run cost, which is also a key factor to have a profitable business.
Thank you, sir. So, as told by sir, AI can help reduce human error and workload with bringing more efficiency in the industry. Heading the CTO division in banking industry for a decade, Ranga sir, I would love to know your views on how robotics play a role in financial industry.
Sure. Thanks, Disha, and thank you for this opportunity as well. Now, if you what Abhishek and Rajesh spoke about, finally the key purpose for which artificial intelligence, or I would be careful to say machine learning, is used is what I would call as automation. So in the financial services industry, wherever there is a lot of manual effort, people doing manual work. So if you walk into a bank now, and one of the public sector banks, you will see so much of paperwork, so many people doing manual work going on there. So these are all opportunities for what we call automation, so that you don't do the boring repetitive jobs is not done by human beings, but instead it is automated. Now, a key part of what Abhishek said is that when you automate it, you generate a lot of data. Who does what and when? You collect a lot of data, and then you apply machine learning on top of it to achieve the increased automation. So earlier you would automate. So if you look at the way in which you can automate something, you can build a simple workflow to automate something, or you can use bots. So the bot by definition basically mimics what a human does, right? Whether it is an execution or whether it is a chatbot, right? Basically it's a conversational, as if a person is talking to you. So now when you use these techniques and you combine it with machine learning, which means that you take a lot of data and you come to conclusions based on that data, you predict patterns of automation, right? For example, if you're actually processing documents, you're doing OCR to process documents in a bank. Now you can use ML to predict patterns. You can say that if these patterns come, then it is actually a KYC document. And then you can automate it better. So that is how the financial services industry, which is the business or the operations teams, use it. Now, when you run these kind of ML applications, the backside of it on the IT side is what we are talking about here, which is a ML ops part of it. So when you run these applications, there are two things that happen in the back end. One is that you run an ML ops situation to run this application. And second is you look at the IT incident part of it. If something goes wrong, how do you automatically predict what is going to happen, and can you resolve it faster? And even in that situation, you're finally still automating. So the key word in the financial services industry is that how can I achieve increased automation using robotics or other kinds of automation combined with MLOps and AIOps, so that it gives us an increased degree of automation. So that is the background to how robotics, automation, and MLOps works in the financial services industry. Back to you, Disha.
Thank you, sir. The automation of manual processes through AIOps incorporated robotics will enable more efficient fintech solutions. So, with the AI taking up this large space in the industry, Abhishek, sir, what does your view on next generation MSP look like?
So, like as Rajesh has directly pointed out, right, the way we are traditionally working, where, we are having a big network operation center, NOC center, which, gets where is the issue in the network or maybe issue in the application, and then somebody from their team go and remediate it. But in current scenario, right, if we look at, it is running out of gas. So when I say it because of the three reasons. One is like your IT infrastructure is producing lots of events data, okay, and honestly, it is beyond the human capability to analyze those data and come out like, okay, here is the issue. That is one part. Second part, like, uh, today world is quite fast. So if you are not reacting on time, it leads to disaster. For example, there are a lot of cyber threats coming every now and then. There are lots of, especially related to the banking industry, there is a financial crime is happening across. So how we can stop those? In order to get out of and work on those events, we need we do not we need something more intelligent over there, and how we can react to that. And lastly, if we think like, adding a staff to that will help it, so it is not going to solve a problem, because people have their own learning cycle, own challenges. We all know the situation of the hiring and all. So here, if we look at the next gen managed service provider, we look at it from the AIOps bigger picture, where AIOps combine big data and machine learning to automate the IT operation process, including correlation, anomaly detection, any problem if it is coming across any of the ecosystem. And we together, as a part of organization, and a basic operating model which AI ops also gives, like first observe the things, then engage with the things, and then act on the things. All these things get triaged using the AI ops. So from the perspective which I see, right, where the industry is going, it AI ops is going to play a much more prominent role over here, and the whole managed service provider will be get molded on top of it. So that is my view on this.
Thank you. As Abhishek sir has well highlighted the importance of real-time response, Rajesh sir, I would like to know how is AI ops helping companies to get there?
So if I may just divide that maturity of that space into 3 stages. Let's say you start with descriptive or copious data collection around events as the initial or the first stage, followed by a stage where you start using that data for prescriptive action, where pointed, specific, scripted automation, which is very reactive in nature and heavily human dependent happens, but it is still automation compared to where you started, and then move on to a predictive space where pattern analysis is done and you start to predict occurrences of event to actually stop them before they happen. So a correlated set of events which can say that there is another one that is coming up. So you fix something so that doesn't happen. So you are in fact proactively avoiding an event. So that would be the third stage. And then that would drive self-heal behavior, wherein and then that would depend on the confidence level of the prediction and associated action recommendation, which can be built using all these AI algorithms or ML algorithms over a period of time through learning and feedback. Where are we today? I believe that we are well and truly past the descriptive phase of data collation. Today we have a large amount of data set. I think Abhishek just mentioned big data. So yeah, we are talking about that sort of events data that an environment, a big, an environment in a big company generates today, with observability platforms maturing in their telemetry process. You have data coming in from all directions, and with this, automation platforms have matured along with orchestration abilities in there. So that has given us that transition from phase one of being just collecting descriptive data into prescribing actions, pointed actions. In many cases, scripted, humans still take the action because they are still not very confident with the predictions there. So the second and the third phase, I believe, will help us, and they fall into that MLOps, AIOps space, help us to, I would say, elevate our basic scripted automation, which, as I said, is relatively a slow reactive of that nature, into a faster, responsive, predictive, and prescriptive model with minimal human assistance. We may still need some. Long ago, we used to go to the bank to print our passbook or take an account statement. Today, we sit at home and just generate the account statement and print it off or create a digital copy of ourselves. We don't go to a bank. We don't ask a teller to do that for us, right? So that's shifting left the work to the user, enabling the user to self-serve themselves. So these are all how AI ops can get corporates and companies like us to reduce the workload on humans, to improve the consistency, as you mentioned, Disha, reduce human error in that whole process, give a quick, consistent, and quality service to our end users at an optimal cost, as I mentioned earlier. So this model will be continuously trained on a regular period, so that its predictions become that much more better as it progresses. So one thing people have to understand, in the scripting world or the phase two of it, you already know the problem, you know how to resolve it, you write the script, and boom, from next day, it is solving your problem. But AI ops or ML ops, you need to be more patient because there is a learning cycle involved there. So you have to understand that slowly it will reach a point where it will start to react very close to the way a human would have done it. A knowledgeable human would have done it. That's what it will bring to the table. So the difference, again, if I may say so, is that in humans, I think Abhishek touched upon it, in humans, when a new person comes in, there is a learning aspect to it. They too won't be from day one productive in the same way like someone who has, let's say, spent 10 years in that environment. So we need to be a bit more patient with the AI ops models. They won't take as long as a human takes to learn. But they will also need that cycle of learning. So that's how I think AI ops, if adopted in the right way, will help companies to get where they want to get with their objectives of delivering a quick, consistent, reliable, and a cost-effective business model. Back to you, Disha.
Thank you, sir. As Rajesh wrote, from collating big data to reaching a stage now where AI modules prescribe actions with real-time feedback mechanism. But in the last decade, we progressed from passbooks in physical banks to online e-statements, and coming ahead, we might be going from manual-driven cars to artificial intelligence-driven cars. Artificial intelligence is taking over in a lot of all industries. Going ahead, Abhishek sir, what is your view on the role of chat ops in AI ops?
So, in very simple terms, if I have to say, AI ops act as a brain and chat ops act as a hand, which can take action. So that's how I goes. And as I explained earlier, chat ops enable simple group chat, the sharing of knowledge, sharing of screens, sharing of problems, logging, or maybe any kind of events, disruption event happening in the application. Everything come to your chat ops, and depending upon that, your whatever the bot which is there in your room along with the other partners can help you to identify what is the issue. So, and if you look from the top right, there is a very good word which has been coined by Google long back, which is the site reliability engineering. So this chat ops component is basically acting as a site reliability engineering component for the overall landscape. So that is you can say AI ops and chat ops are like brothers and brothers over there. And if I have to comment it with regards to the AI ops, so AI ops leverage chat ops to increase data visibility across all the IT environment, analyze critical data which is coming to the room or coming to the chat platform which any of the organization is using. And also it helps the IT team to get to know about the root cause, maybe some recommended solution if AI ops is giving, depending upon the history of that data. And combining these two right in together, like AI ops and chat ops, it optimizes the communication and collaboration to help to resolve the incident faster, so that whatever the promise we have given it to our customer, we will be able to deliver that part. So so in a nutshell, right? So ChatOps ChatOps is like action point for all the AI ops events or AI ops thinking which is coming in over there.
Thank you, sir. As Abhishek sir has very well put, AI ops act as the brain and chat ops acts as the real hands that do the work. Rajesh, I would like to, could you share a day in the life of an investment banking production lead and how it helps you to have all the alerts and information go into one tool?
Yeah, sure. So for a production lead and then his team or her team, the key tasks or job is that they manage stakeholders who are impacted by, let's say, an outage in the environment, or who need help to get around their work, some additional data, so on and so forth. So yeah, managing stakeholders, assessing impact to the business, to the environment, to the user community, if there is an outage, engaging relevant teams, mobilizing teams to drive resolution, making quick and informed decision on actions. So those decisions are driven by what risk to the business or the environment if that action is taken or not taken. So assess that and then take a call on it, whether it has to be done as a workaround or a hot fix in the environment, so on and so forth. And then the objective is always to minimize the client and business impact while ensuring that we comply to all the internal and regulatory aspects which are prescribed to run an IT ops or a production shop. So from a pure, let's say, job description, that would be the high level job description for a lead and his engineers in a production service environment. So observability platform, when they marry their data with a good ML AI ops model, it actually helps to remove this noise and commotion and starts to lead you to say that, hey, you know what, we have already noticed a router going down, and you have this 1,000 CIs or configuration items or applications that are related to that one router or connected to that one router. So, hey, you know what, hang on. We know that you are facing some sort of behavior anomaly in your application. Looks like it is this one component that could be the reason. So a quick identification of a component that goes down, minimal noise, you get actually actionable alerts, as I would say. And then that again speeds up the possibility of resolving the issue quickly and bringing business back to normal. So yeah, I just gave you a very high level description of what an SRE / production engineer would do, and how the AI ops or observability platform, how much they can enable us to make our life easier. Back to you, Disha.
Thank you, sir. So, with the continuous efforts in having actionable alerts and having minimal noise in the business, so Ranga sir, how have the expectations changed with today's customer?
That's a good question, Disha. Now, if you look at, the two main things that always customers have looked at is availability and resilience. So availability means that whatever they work with us as a bank, or we work with our service providers, whatever service we consume has to be available. Now it's no longer 99.99, it's 100%. It has to be continuously available. Now, resilience means that if something goes wrong, how quickly it comes back up. So all the topics that Rajesh and Abhishek are talking about is that if system goes down or the network goes down, how can it come back very quickly? Now, the customers in the current age or the current situation, what has changed? Two things have changed. One is the amount of digitization that has happened. So if you compare how, 2 years ago, before the pandemic, the amount of workload on systems, the patterns were different because there were still people going into the branch. There were still a lot of other activities. But overnight, when the pandemic hit, everybody is on the web or on the portal or on the app on their phone. So millions of apps are now accessing the system. So the workload is now hitting digitally, right? That is the first change that has happened. The second one is the complexity has increased, significant complexity. And how does complexity increase? Because the way in which the infrastructure has evolved. So we are moving more and more towards cloud-based systems. And now if you just do a network topology of what one transaction, where and all the transaction goes through, the IT transaction goes through, the complexity is significantly more than what it was even 3-4 years ago. So earlier it would be directly from your web application to the bank systems. Now there are so many players in between. There is a hybrid cloud situation. So many banks and many financial services institutions are hybrid. So they use multiple clouds. They have on-prem systems, and then they have third-party packages and managed service providers like Abhishek talked about, where companies are providing SaaS services, software as a service. Now, these are all elements of complexity. So all the elements of complexity are now changed the expectation from the consumer. So if you observe, to just want to add one point on the digitization, the number of chatbots now you see, any website you go to, you will see a chatbot, right? So, and what is the implication of the chatbot? Now, whether it works or doesn't work, that's a different story. Implication is that I don't think there are people behind the scene answering your questions. So everybody has a chatbot behind, and there is a chat ops situation, right? Like Abhishek described. A lot of people who might be seeing, and in many situations, it is actually a machine that is responding based on the chatbot operation. So these are all the changes that have come out from a consumer point of view, from our customer point of view. And when we deal with products like many of your audiences are building, or services that your audiences will build, our expectation will be the same. Can you handle the resilience? Can you handle the complexity? And can you make sure of availability? These are the things I will expect as a consumer, and my consumers expect of me as a financial services institution. So that is how the situation has changed.
As Rangasur has put, with the hybrid cloud services coming up and dynamic digitalization, Rajesh, so how important is it to monitor our cloud assets? There's an opinion that we do not need a separate tool for this.
Yeah, and I think most of the time that opinion perhaps is driven by the new companies who come and who are fully on cloud, and then some of them probably just one cloud provider, service provider. Probably, yeah, that it would work for them. But then if you're looking at companies or organizations like ours, or any organization of our size and history, and then the number of systems we have, it is very difficult to have just one tool or platform which is closely integrated into a cloud service provider's infrastructure, be it Google or Microsoft or Amazon. I strongly believe that while cloud assets, yes, they need to be monitored, the monitoring information, both the raw data as well as if they have any ML stuff in there, the learnings from there, if that can be transferred over to your observability / AI platform, which is the central one, it is imperative to do that. To talk about the correlation that I just mentioned earlier, wherein an observability platform can use that intelligence to say that, hey, I'm already seeing an outage somewhere else, and they can correlate 2 or 3 events inside the environment which may not be happening in the same space, and then come back and make a much more intelligent decision saying that you fix this one issue and you could be actually fixing all of them, rather than putting in effort to fix everything at different parts of your topology, which is actually suboptimal use of effort. So very, very important that we have cloud assets being monitored, but more importantly, bring that into a central platform to, as I said, to have more intelligent decision making available, simply because most of the big companies will have multi-cloud strategy or hybrid cloud strategy, as Ranga mentioned. They will be connected or taking services of SaaS platforms, and they will have their own on-prem candidates for valid business reasons. You cannot avoid that aspect at all. So the answer is yes, I know there are detractors to that thought, that people should not have multiple tools, but I, for the reasons that I just mentioned, totally believe that you have to have a centralized platform. Now, I'm not saying that go proliferate tools for every single app you have, but you have to strategize in such a way. You have a central platform where all the data comes in, event data comes in, and if cloud data has to be stored along with the other ones, like the SaaS and on-prem stuff, then so be it. Yes. Back to you, Disha.
Thank you, sir. So with how the innovation is evolving the market, Ranga, sir, what is your opinion on how these innovation tools are going to influence the next generation of business operations?
Sure, and I think innovation is the heart of the discussion now. In fact, I would actually go to the extent of saying that AI ML ops is no longer innovation; it is already business as usual, right? So most of the products we find in the market and most of the expectation we have when we work with our partners, right, when our product or IT partners, we expect that they already have something like this that is working. Now, what is the next step, right? So the thing is that continuous innovation is happening in the industry, and so good work on your side.
Thank you, sir. So as sir told, startups and her innovation in startups is supplementing the on-market innovations. I would like to know your views on how AI is helping the upcoming entrepreneurs to be service providers in the larger industry segment. with auxiliary small build businesses building AI modules for the major players in the market? And how is the industry for that? It's an open question. Any of you all can start and take over.
I think from a startup point of view, and I think I want to continue what I said earlier, right? For us, the startup is the face of innovation because they look at it with a clean drawing board. They're trying to look at a new way to solve existing problems, right? That is one. And the second one that we see is the culture that the startups drive, right? That you're trying to, what you call fail fast, right? Build something quickly, see if it works. And if it doesn't work, you go into the next iteration, right? Complete rapid innovation, if I would call it, right? That is what the startups bring to the table. Now, the last element is the partnership they do or work with, like company like ourselves or premier institutions like your organization. And those also bring the talent into the startup, right? And, and I should be very frank that, when we try to hire in the market, our competition is actually startups. And that has significantly changed for us in the last 2 years. The really, core talent is actually attracted to the startup industry. And we have to leverage that. The end statement is the same. Both of us want the innovation, right? So we have to find, if you can't work with the talent directly, we work with the startups, and the startups give the environment for the talent to blossom and come up with innovation. That's the way I look at it. Rajesh, Abhishek, please add your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I can add to that. So the very reason, Disha, why we, when I say we as in Deutsche Bank, engaged with IIT Bombay, the Eureka program, is to actually engage closely with the startup ecosystem, see what they are doing, and top universities like yours. And also there is another thought behind it, where we believe, and then if I may say vested interest is also that from what we have observed, and this is more like a generic majority statement, I won't pick on anyone, is that the fintech startups in India, majority of them have been focused on the retail side or the payment side of it. A few other startups are more of an aggregator sort of player, right? The idea of bringing or this engagement with Eureka and with IITB was actually to see if we can pivot the thought process of our startups and the next generation of engineers to actually disrupt the institutional banking side of it, which means investment banking, which means corporate banking, bring in disruptions like what we brought in the payment side of it. How many tough questions are being asked to the financial industry in that space? I think very few. Of course, there is a lot of talk about API banking and all, but that again, if you look, mostly is on the retail side of it. But yeah, so major opportunity for startups and the new generation technologists. I would encourage all of them to understand the challenges of the institutional banking side of it, because I believe there are a lot more complex opportunities out there, which if you can solve, will be a great impetus to the financial market.
Couple of points, which is there in my mind. And as I'm very, very close to the technology side of it, when I go into the ecosystem of the startup, right, I see like what they are using. Okay. I see like the startup may belongs to some other side of it. Like, for example, they are trying to solve some problem of the environmental side. Okay. Trying to solve the health sector. Can we use that tech and put it into the bank? Okay, do we have that possibility? So that's the part which I see from my eyes, honestly, like what I can bring into the table for the organization, and which problem it is going to solve. Because as a part of during my whole tenure, right, from last 17 years, I've been seeing how the banking process is going, starting from front to back, especially on investment banking side. So that is the part which I see. And also, one point which I want to nudge over here, and I think Rajesh has rightly pointed out, most of the startup which we see over here, they either do the startup either in the retail segment or in the payment space, like, they are the payment gateway or do something. Investment banking side or corporate banking side is still very, very few startups. Even, I find it, it's not there in the list. If I see the, list of the startup which is there in India or in the APEX side of it. But if you go outside of India, right, you will find out like in US, in UK, whatever the ecosystem the Silicon Valley will be having, they are coming with the idea where your institutional banking, IB, or the corporate banking startups are coming more a lot compared to what we have. So, this may be acting as a, I just want to give that thought to our startup as well, to trigger it and come up with the idea. We are there to work with them. We are there to give a problem as well to them, to bring the whole ecosystem together.
Thank you, sir. We've highlighted the potential and the huge market for evolving upcoming startups in the institutional banking and financial side. Another question I would like to put up is, how is the evolving AI role in BFSI, that is enhancing productivity, and at the same point of time, reducing employment
Particularly
opportunities?
with premier
So,
institutions
any
like yours,
closing words
where
for
there are
the
students who
aspiring
are
future
doing research on
workforce?
new topics, and even whether it is
I will take that
NLP
one
based
first because I
improvements
have
or even
I
AI
face
ML
that
next
problem, or
wave,
rather
next generation kind of thing.
perception
Now
every
the
day
challenge
as
is
I
to
do.
keep
So I think it is
continuously innovating.
a wrong
We already
perception.
have something that is
Right.
working. So and now the pace has increased so much, and ML does, that we expect innovation take away the drudgery. It's almost like an MVP evolving. Right? So the intention is that wherever about I expect innovation in the next release you give me, I expect something significantly new and different, so that the baseline from which I'm starting has moved ahead with dots. And if I talk about it, 10 years ago, this was not the search replaced something new every 2 years. So why would somebody want to do that job? Now we expect change. Can I every few make months an automation? And the technology is evolving, wherever things can be done, the work let's automate it. And if we have manpower, IIT Bombay and other institutions, and a lot of other and the more interesting side of built out products, they are the ones driving the innovation. And what we try to do as an organization, and many of our peers too, losing jobs, and this is a perception that comes globally. The demand into everywhere, and this is the kind of thing that we initially they said they're and then we expect the innovation. Then now, the idea was that the startup, the jobs ecosystem, the kind of work one that is did in those countries, build the innovation faster. People who are actually than larger organizations. That's like probably one of the reasons why there are more startups. I wouldn't say burden, but we are focused heavily. I would look at it like it is an opportunity. We expect innovation to come and tell us the nature of the startups and new products to come and tell us. Human beings here is a way interesting, challenging, creative, and it will be better than that. Is what I believe. So that is how we expect innovation to productivity. We have separate focus on innovation that we do from our organization. Abhishek, Rajesh, and we are all part of it.
And
that
I'll
is
go
where
next. In fact, I will
engage
have
with institutions
another
like
example
yourself, as well as the
to add
startups
to
that
what
you're
Ranga
bringing.
said.
So your startup
that is
ecosystem is
moving
really
away
helping.
from mundane, uninteresting drudgery to more interesting stuff. And a prime example, I would say, in the technology industry is production support. Is usually perceived as a ticket cutter's job, where you are doing not so high-end stuff and so on and so forth. But with SRE, the site reliability engineering or a production engineering concept that has come in, that has totally changed. And I personally believe these guys are now going to work more on the AIOps, ML type of stuff than compared to an engineer who would be, let's say, working on a product or a platform, which is more UI, UX, and database and application logic based. But then the production support side would be doing also. Ranga, you want to go data first? Scientist type of work on the ITOps events data that has been generated. There would be data engineers who would work on the acquisition side of that data, how to pull all that unstructured data together, make sense out of it, and then you'd have the ML AI gurus actually work out the model to derive conclusions out of it, and automation and all that stuff that we have been talking so far. So look how that space of a production engineer has changed from mere ticket cutting to actually working on cutting edge technology. So that's the way I would see many of the workspaces which would start to evolve, and probably even business operations. I think things will change that way, like the dot and comma example. AIOps is heavily, or MLOps, if I may say, he's heavily into the anti-financial crime side of it, where pattern analysis, and most of you who uses a credit card would know that the moment you swipe a credit card in a different country, after like 2 years of being in India, you immediately get a call from your bank or your credit card company saying that, did you swipe it? I mean, that sort of pattern analysis and quick reaction to so-called event anomaly, these are all being supported by this fantastic technology. And that's what we need to do more. Find those spaces to disrupt, use this technology. So that's all work coming our way, by the way, right? So while you leave the drudgery away, there is a lot of interesting work to be done. Now, if somebody is, and I'm being very, very candid over here, if somebody enjoys that sort of drudgery work, I'm sure there will be an opportunity for them also, because there would be companies which are still in the maturing stage, right? So probably that's where they would go. But the smart ones, the intelligent ones, I personally believe would be looking forward to these challenges that are coming up, and where they can sharpen their skills, technical as well as business. To you, Abhishek.
Yeah, thanks, Rajesh. So I have very simple words, right, especially for this. If we look at, right, earlier when we used to send inland letters, okay, and then, the mail has came in after that. And not mail, I think after inland letter, there used to be, somebody's sending a telegram, okay, telegram message, and then the mail has came in. But, the one thing which is there, the fear, right, that people will be losing job because the mail has came in. Now we do not need a postman. That's for sure. We do not need a postman, but now we need some different skill. And, one fact is there, which I think everybody will agree. The generation which is coming after us, right? Every 30 years, the generation changes. And as long as the new generation comes, they will become much more smarter than the previous generation, okay? For example, my son is playing on the mobile game, which is very, very tough when I play, honestly. So what we want over here, right? When you are seeing the new thing is coming, like AI or ML or, robotics or whatever the new things, NLP, all these are the new skills which the new generation have to acquire. And that is where the new jobs are. So that is one part of it. And that's where the whole industry is going to lead to. So, coming back to the basic question over there, right? Like, is it a threat for the job and all? No. But yeah, you have to enhance your skill. As a premier institute, you are already, especially with IIT Bombay or most of the premier institute in India, they are already having these kind of skills and
Disha, back to you.
Going on. They are doing a project on the
what happened? Is she still there?
Of the driverless car and all those things. Yeah, because when I go into the campus, I see these kind of projects which students are doing. So that is what the next gen looks I think like. Rajesh compared to doing most of the points regular work like but removing dot by comma or something over there. So that's a basic thought process which I want to give it over here.
Yes, so as all been rightly put, and it's not a threat of fear for taking away jobs, but more of an evolving nature, which has always been with the human life cycle, growing and upskilling ourselves with time, and just the change of the work, nature of work, and not taking away the work. Just to conclude, thank you also for taking out your time and joining in with us today. It was a highly insightful discussion. I'm sure today's conversation broadens our perspective about AI ops and chat ops in financial and banking industry and the overall market for the same. The audience will have many important takeaways after this session. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Disha.
Thank you, Disha.
Thank you, Disha. Thanks for having us. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. The pleasure is all ours.